Hey guys, if you're like me, you like to keep the gear you use on the road lean and mean, so why not try the AirTurn Go Stand? It's a collapsible portable mic stand with a boom arm that you can find from the makers of airturn.com. That's airturn.com. Head over, check them out. They got a great selection of items, plus the AirTurn Go Stand. Use the code ROADIE to get yourself 20% off. That's ROADIE when you check out, and you'll get yourself 20% off.
What's happening, roadies? This is Phil Dutteridge.
This is Louis Rosanna.
Hey, what's happening, roadies? This is Joel Lonky, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business.
All right. What's happening, roadies? Welcome to episode number 81. Episode 81. You know we're getting closer to episode 100. What's going on? How was your week? I hope you guys are well. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time checking us out, hey, thanks for coming, man. Thanks for coming on backstage to check out the action. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. That was something I learned in Oxford, Mississippi when I was down there. As many of you know, I spent a month down there in October. Was it October? No, it was November, working on a shoot. And that's what the Southern folks say. They say, appreciate you. Appreciate you. You check out at the old Kroger market, and they tell you they appreciate you. Anyway, it's Martin Luther King Day today. All right? Martin Luther King. We were down in Mississippi, and we actually had an opportunity to head up to Memphis for a day. We had lunch over at B.B. King's. We did a little walk-in tour, went to the Delta Blues Museum and whatnot, and stopped by the Lorraine Motel, the site of where Dr. King was assassinated, which is now the Civil Rights Museum. Very cool spot. Very, very cool. If you are in Memphis, I highly recommend and suggest you go check it out. Pretty eerie. It's, there's definitely a vibe in the air, but definitely worth going by and having a look. So take a moment today, think about Dr. King, think about what his message was of peace and getting together. Everybody just, coexisting, man. In these days, these times, we could use a little bit more of that. So we got episode 81 today, my friends. Joel Lonky, house engineer, production manager, tour manager, Captain Joel Lonky, skydiver, pilot. This dude does a lot of stuff. Before we get to him, I just want to let you know in this episode, I couldn't detect it while we were talking, but there's a slight echo of my voice coming back on his thing. It doesn't happen all the time. It's there a little bit. I'm sorry if it's annoying. Guess what? Frankly, it kind of annoyed me on the playback that I was listening to, getting ready for this episode, but it's not terrible. It's just there a little bit, so bear with it. I have finished Greg Allman's My Cross to Bear. I finished my first book of 2018. I got to move on to the next one. Not sure which one it's going to be yet. Good read. Lots of fun. It was fun. It was entertaining. Good stuff. Maybe listen to some more Allman Brothers this last few days. Have a look out for my What's in My Podcast Bag video that will be going to NAMM with me. That should be going up later this week. Hopefully by the end of this week, I will have that bad boy up. I just did an unboxing of a small HD Focus on-camera monitor that I got because I was super excited to get rid of my old monitor and try a new on-camera monitor. So when I go to see you guys out on the road and I'm filming stuff, I can actually see what the hell it is that I'm doing and do a better job, make it look better and cooler. Don't forget, if you're going to be in NAMM, I've been talking about it, I will be there moderating a panel Thursday, January 25th from 2 to 3 p.m. in the California Ballroom A, Level 2. Heather Rafter, Jesse Hughes, Dean Correa, Mike Moore. We got a hell of a panel, keeping concerts safe. I hope you can join us. I hope there's room for you because I think this bad boy is filling up already. I'm not gonna belabor anything else here. Okay, you know the score here, guys. If you got questions for a guest, you got questions for me, hit me up at info@roadiefreeradio.com, and I will try to get those questions to the guest that's either been on the show already, if you've got something, you want to know something I didn't ask about, because I can't ask every question under the sun, or you see that I've got a guest coming up that you're like, man, I've always wanted to know this, hit me up, info@roadiefreeradio.com, and we will get that stuff answered. I mentioned the YouTube channel. Head over there, subscribe if you like what you see. I've been posting the interviews in their entirety there. I'm trying something new. Last year I was filming myself, just doing the intros, so you could see sort of behind the scenes what it looks like when I'm in various states of sweats wearing, or whatever I got going on, doing the intros and what that looks like. This year so far, I'm posting the full interview so you can see what that looks like, if that appeals to you to throw it up on YouTube while you're doing something else. Anyway, let me know what you think. Have a look. Subscribe to the channel. Comment on the videos. I want to hear all of it. And also, don't forget, like I said, episode 100 is around the corner. It's on, when is it? It's Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend. Monday, Memorial Day, was going to be episode 100. I'm looking for ideas. I got some cool ideas, and I got some things cooking. But, yeah, I want to hear from you. All right, so as I said, Joel Lonky, good dude. This was a good, solid chat. Air Force boy, still flies planes. Spent a lot of time skydiving. We get into all this good stuff. And currently he's with Billy Idol. He's been with Antwoord, Rob Zombie. Spent a long time with the Zombo, 10 years. He's been with the Goo Goo Dolls, P-Diddy, Murder Dolls, Third Eye Blind, Maroon 5. And the guy's got one serious resume. Started out with Rage Against the Machine way back, like one of their first gigs. Anyway, good dude, solid guy. I'd like to be in the trenches with Joel Lonky if I had my way. All right? You know what I'm saying? So listen, I love you. I love doing this show, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's awesome. We are kicking ass this week. I don't know where all these people came from, but we got a whole bunch of new listeners. So thank you for tuning in. I'm super excited. And we got one more episode. Is that right? Yeah, we got one more episode before I head off to NAMM. My good buddy Liz Shaw is on the show next week, the host of Recording Studio Rockstars, which, as I've said, if you are not listening to Recording Studio Rockstars, I highly suggest you find it on iTunes and check out Liz. She's got a studio in Nashville called the Toy Box Studio. We get into some legal shit that's going on in the city of Nashville and some restrictions they're putting on home businesses. Anyway, tune in next week for that one. That's episode 82. And like I said, we will be filming the panel at NAMM. And then that will air. That's going to be episode 83. And we're very, very thankful to the organizers of NAMM and to Freeman Audiovisual for helping us out with that. And we've got a couple other sponsors who I can't name just yet that are helping us pull it off. But we going to do it. Okay? Listen, like I said, I love you. Y'all be good. Enjoy this episode. Hit me up with some comments. Let me know what you think. All right? Here we go. The captain himself, Mr. Joel Lonky.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie.
What's going on? How were your holidays?
They were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything was fine, the usual kind of things.
Yeah, off the road and just looking to hang.
Yeah, I'm rebuilding one of my racks, in the off season, getting ready to ship it again.
Nice. So any New Year's resolutions, by the way?
No, not really.
No? You're not one of those guys?
No, not really.
Yeah. Just keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep the work rolling.
Go for another orbit around the sun.
I like it. Dude, I like the posters and framed up pictures behind you.
Well, actually, those are RIAA awards.
Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Look.
that orange, that red one is Third Eye Blind. The one above that, Cypress Hill. The one next to Third Eye Blind is House of Pain. There's another Cypress Hill up top, another Third Eye Blind, LL Cool J, the Toadies. Then I've got a collection of, the hell are those? From the Tonight Show. I had the dressing room signs from all the bands that they're from.
Nice.
Stuff like that.
What's the signed drum head?
Seven Dust.
Nice. I see some skateboards here.
Yeah, there's a couple skateboards on the wall. Jerry Valdez, my buddy in Vegas, the original 70s superstar skater.
Wow.
We hang out whenever I'm in Vegas doing stuff. And Mike Frazier's a local guy. He signed me a deck.
Cool. And you're down in Florida now.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm in a little town called De Leon Springs, north of a little town called DeLand.
Ah.
Home of Stetson University.
Oh, yeah.
And about 80% of all the skydiving manufacturers in the U.S.
All right, so your two loves at the top, it seems. I think you got a few loves, but your two loves are doing music and being a pilot. Is that correct? Or skydiving?
No, I was a skydiver, but probably a pilot now. I retired from skydiving about 97, 96.
Oh, wow.
Kind of about the time I started flying. Couldn't afford both of them.
Yeah. Do you own
Expensive.
a plane?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I've got I'm in a partnership with a 1953 U.S. Navy. Well, it's an Air Force T-34A. It's a trainer from the 50s.
Damn. Yes, you said you had an affinity, a soft spot for old warbirds.
Yeah. I got quite the passion for it. I just started flying a C-47 down in Titusville called Tycho Bell
Holy
as
shit.
a co-pilot.
A C-47?
Yeah.
Like the big mama C-47?
Yeah.
Damn. What's-
DC-3, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, what's that thing like to fly?
It's slow and heavy. You got to have steering by Armstrong.
Wow.
You fly that thing for an hour or two, your shoulders are sore. You're yanking that thing around. And you turn the control wheel and you wait a few seconds for something to happen.
Wow. Those must be crazy heavy when they're fully loaded up, huh?
Yeah, we run that one at about between 26 and 27,000 pounds.
That's pretty hefty.
Yeah, I mean, empty weight on it's 25.
So with a plane like that, and also being a tour and production manager, do you just fly your shit wherever you want to go? Like
I wish it was
you're
that- I
literally
wish it was that
advancing.
easy.
You're literally advancing your own stuff.
Well, I wish it was that easy. That aircraft is a actual D-Day veteran, so I'm flying it for a museum as a volunteer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's 70-something years old.
Yeah, of course. And still works pretty damn well.
Works great.
Yeah.
You know, it's maintained. It's, current FAA standards. It's airworthy. We're planning on taking it over to Normandy in 2019 for the final big anniversary. There's going to be 24 of us leaving from New York in flights of 4, flying over the Atlantic, stopping in Labrador, Greenland, Iceland, then Ireland, then down to England, and then on the anniversary D-Day from England to Normandy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's going to be 35 to 40 aircraft total, including the European C-47s. And the Commemorative Air Force, and I know we're getting off track here.
No, it's all right.
The Commemorative Air Force has a C-47 they just got called That's All Brother, which is the actual lead plane from D-Day. It led all the aircraft across the channel on D-Day, and it's being restored right now to also make that flight.
Whoa. That is super cool.
Yeah, it's pretty historical.
The pilots and crew that make this all up, what's their general sort of background? A lot of veterans?
No, most of them are all airline pilots, current retireds, with military background. I was in the Air Force right out of high school, and I worked on F-4s.
F-4 Phantoms?
Yes. But
I don't know why, just real quick, I had a thing for that plane.
I still do.
When I was a kid, I thought that was the coolest looking fucking jet. The F-16, F-15, those were awesome. The Hornet was cool, but the F-4, I don't know why, man.
The F-4 is, America's answer that with enough thrust, even a cinder block can fly.
I think maybe because I had, like most young kids, you go through your war phase. And I wanted to be a pilot, and I wanted to go to NASA and do that whole thing. But that was a big plane in Vietnam, right?
Yeah, that was a major contributor. Navy flew them, the Marines flew them, and the Air Force flew them.
Yeah.
There were differences between the services versions, but basically the same aircraft.
How long were you in the Air Force?
4 years.
Nice.
And I was moonlighting as a sound guy then, too. My commander let me work side jobs.
Wow. All right,
Dave's really cool.
So let's go back, man. So you are from New Jersey. You're a Jersey guy.
Originally, Jersey guy.
Jersey guy. How old were you when you moved out of there?
I left Jersey in 92, 93.
All right.
Right when I started working for Rage, I left.
Yeah.
Moved down to Texas.
Down to Texas. I was going to ask if you did LA time. Because
Nope.
from the
I've
resume,
always, it's funny. I've always avoided it. And I'm sure it cost me work because I wasn't local.
yeah.
But I don't know. I just couldn't do it. It was too crowded. The taxes were too high. Cost of living was too high.
Yeah.
I'm more of a practical person that way.
Right. Yeah. Better to spend your money on airplanes and jumping out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And cool audio
And
gear.
Yeah, that's why I live in a little town now. It's very quiet. I just don't, I deal with people constantly at work, so I want to be away from people.
Yeah. But it's funny you say that you feel like you lost out on some work because your resume does not speak to someone who's lost out on any work.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty impressive resume, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow. Blood,
You're not-
sweat, and tears.
You're not just a pretty face, as you said.
Yeah, right.
So tell me about growing up in New Jersey first until 92. Big family?
All right. Yeah, lived in a town. I was born in a town called Perth Amboy, right near Staten Island, across the Arthur Kill. Was there till, I don't know, about 8-9 years old. Then we moved up to this town called Branchburg in central New Jersey. My parents wanted me to go to better public schools.
Yeah.
Kind of, normal suburban childhood without police in your town, rode motorcycles on the road, got rowdy, drank beer at an underage, experimented with all kinds of stupid things,
Yeah. Family into music?
Yeah. I liked music right away. I was a latchkey kid too, so I
Yep.
kind of had the all day to myself after I got home from school.
Yep.
Well, the thing that really got me going was I started playing bass, taking bass lessons at 13, and my neighbor across the street, I would hear music coming from their basement in the evening sometimes, and I would get curious, so I'd kind of sneak over there and peer into their basement window, and there would be a band playing. They had a band and they were practicing. Well, unbeknownst to me, one of the guys in the band was one of the Gretsch brothers.
Whoa.
Jeff Getch and his other brother who ran the Garden State Arts Center.
Right.
Well, back then he was an assistant engineer in New York, and he was the assistant engineer on Steely Dan Asia. Wow. Well, I saw my first mixing board down there, and that was it. I was hooked. Sold my bass, took that money and bought an old custom 12-channel board with the knobs, no faders.
Whoa.
Got blueprints and built my own Voice of the Theaters. They weren't great, but I did it. And my parents were cool enough to support whatever I wanted to do, so they let my friends' bands rehearse in our house so I could figure out sound. There was always this embarrassing thing that my father at 10 o'clock would open the basement door and flash the lights on, and I was like, that's time to go. But, they were pretty damn cool to let me get away with that stuff.
That's insane. So first you get struck by the bass, and then you see a soundboard, and that does it. What was it about seeing a soundboard?
I don't know. I've always had an affinity to conquer, technical systems, I guess, or, the pilot thing fits that as well. I like systems.
Right. Systems, organizing, right?
It's all that
checklist.
kind of
It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. Is that why we're going to jump ahead a little bit? Is that why there is a predominance of tour and production management on your resume?
Yeah, I think so. I've always been very organized and able to, structure things and make things work in a certain time frame. I like living by that time frame, except when I'm home, then I don't care.
Right.
I can turn it on and turn it off really well.
Yeah. All right, so you start building your Voice of the Theater speakers. You got your custom board, and you start mixing for local bands and your buddies.
Yeah, and I fell into a little regional sound company called KC Sound out of New Jersey. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time when I hooked up with Ken, who just passed away last year, I'll get to that. There's a sidebar story that goes with that.
All right.
He had just worked out of his house at a garage in Manville, New Jersey, and did all the local New Jersey stuff, covered New York, covered Philadelphia in the early 80s and 80s. So I was really lucky at that time. That's when that whole music scene was thriving in Manhattan.
Absolutely.
Jersey, the Jersey club scene was amazing.
Yep.
Had I not grown up there, I don't think I would have had the opportunities that I was presented because of where I was. It was a definite geographic advantage to me.
Sure.
he had a couple of steady clients, like the old infamous Club Benet was one of his.
Yeah.
So I really got to cut my chops doing national acts at Club Benet, starting out. It stick me on learning to do monitors and that kind of thing.
This is all post Air Force or pre Air Force?
Oh no, this is
high school.
yeah, this is kind of pre-post.
Okay.
It kind of came back and forth together, but mostly post. I got back home from the Air Force right around 84ish. Okay. So I picked right up from there. We did, all kinds of stuff over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, but that's where my real exposure to nationals came from, was like the Club Benet gigs and doing Irving Plaza. We'd supply monitors to Irving Plaza and the Cat Club, several New York venues.
Yeah.
And that's really got me going. That really fired me up. Like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah. And what did he have you doing at first?
Just humping gear, learning how to plug stuff in, learning how to run a console. And back then they don't do it anymore. And I really feel it's a loss for the newer engineers these days, is we knew how everything worked. We knew when the signal went in here, it went to this stage, it went to this stage, it went to the preamps, it went to that, came out here, went to there. People now just see a computer screen. It doesn't work. I don't know what to do. Right. There's none of that background knowledge of system and how the equipment you're using actually functions in a signal flow.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because, it's weird. You get a lot of these people coming out of school. Like you said, I know it's kind of it can be a gripe for some people who've been out there and learned the other way, that these guys and gals don't know something like that. A, that seems like such a fundamental thing. B, Greg Looper, Tom Petty's monitor guy. You know Greg?
I've toured with him.
You've toured with
Billy
him.
Idol.
Oh, they're
friends.
That's right. He did do Billy Idol. Shit. Oh, so
yeah,
Greg said something very similar in our chat, which was, if you can't tell me the signal chain, right, all the way through, basically get off my stage.
Pretty much.
And
but
it's so basic. Like, why don't you think kids know that shit?
Because everything's so computer based now that they don't need to know it, because they can't fix it even if it broke.
Yeah, but it's got to start somewhere, right? I mean,
to them, I plug this wire in, and I talk in the mic, and my voice gets converted to an electronic signal, and then I see it on a screen, and that's what I know.
Right. Do you take a little time when you're working with the youngins,
yes,
to be like, listen,
absolutely,
turn your screen off.
I tell them, use your ears. Stop looking at the screen. Look up. Use your ears.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so getting back to Casey, so he's got you running around New York. You're in and out of a van, probably. Yeah,
we had a little 20 or 15 foot box truck.
Yep.
And I remember when we got he goes, I'm going to buy it. When I started, it was all those separates, like the EV RH 9060 horns and bass bins, and you had to stack everything. Yeah. Didn't have motors. We'd use block and falls and stuff like that. I got into it right at the end of the infancy period, I think, of this business.
Sure.
But then he's like, I got this great new PA, and he bought a bunch of KF 550s and all in one box. I was like, wow. It weighed 1 million pounds a box, but it was very convenient.
Sure.
And we started using those, and we had Soundcraft 400s and Soundcraft 800s, and that's the consoles we had. And I learned a lot on those boards. I learned how to gain structure and learned how to not to gain structure, and you just got to learn by doing.
Right. And plus New York, New Jersey, those old clubs that time, you're getting exposed to guys and gals who have been doing it in those clubs for a long time. I imagine you must have picked up some stuff from then. I
met Night Bob back in probably 85 or 86. He's known me that long.
Wow.
Another guy was what's his name? Brian Taylor used to be the house guy at the Cat Club. Yeah, he's still a friend of mine. Lives in Vegas. I can't believe I blanked his name out. Sorry, Brian. He's gonna go. You want me to break your fucking nose?
That's right.
Just stuff like that. The networking started early like that, and it. I guess it was always part of it. And I guess it still is, and to some aspect.
Yeah.
It's way more business like now. Obviously, we had a lot more fun back then. the old Ritz, going to the Friday night Hells Angels poker games in the basement. And, those guys liked me, and it really helped, have those guys like you. They were always welcomed, and, they were treated you really well if they liked you. If they didn't like you, you were out. So, it was really kind of keep your mouth shut, observe, don't say anything till, it's your turn to say something till you actually know what you're talking about.
I just had a very similar, almost exact conversation with Hank Fury. Do you know Hank?
I'm going to say the name's familiar, but I'm drawing a blank.
Another New York guy. His episode just aired a couple weeks back by the time your episode comes out. But spent 6 years at CBGB's and also spent a lot of time with the Hells Angels and said the exact same thing. He's like, if they liked you and you were cool with them, no problem. But if you
I met Sandy a couple times, and those guys were okay with me because back then I knew the Ritz crew before I knew them. So it was like Big Steve Shirella, who's still working out there, who literally liked me, and a guy named Steve Cohen who works for the Eagles. We all came up, Steve Cohen and I, Brian Taylor, and we all kind of came up together through it. Alan Glassman, and there was a couple of other people. Yeah, that we all were peers and all got along and were friends and did a lot of the same projects together.
Do you remember having a sense at that point, like, this is, I want to do this, I want to go on the road, oh my God,
absolutely.
I got to go work at SIR, or I want to work at a particular club? What was the...
I stayed with the sound company because I got to work at all these different clubs instead of being at one place, and it got me more exposed to more different types of music. We used to do Vietnamese shows in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we do ethnic shows and rock shows and polka shows, and I think it gave me a nice basis to understand mixing and how each kind of music requires a different type of engineering.
Right.
Not gonna do a polka with the kick drum going click 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 click.
Yeah.
It's a little. It gives you a little more subtlety and different nuances of different types of music.
I know the Shokos and the Clare Brothers of the world; those are big companies, and I know that there are others. Are there a lot of those still out there and still operating? Have they been swallowed up? Have they folded? And if there are, is that still a viable track for, let's say you didn't go to Full Sail. You can't afford to go to Full Sail, whatever it is. Is that one of the best ways to go, is to try to get with a sound company or possibly, start at a club? Does it matter?
Yeah, absolutely. I would almost recommend the regional sound company, because you're going to get more exposure that way instead of sitting in one club and using the same gear all the time. If you work for a regional, you're going to have to change the gear up for the contract, and it gives you a little more variety. And if you're, a little ADD or whatever, it fits your switches on and off better. Things change constantly. So it's more of a challenge, so to speak.
So what led to heading off to the Air Force?
Airplanes. What else? And, I don't think I had been ready for college. My parents wanted to send me. They were looking at schools that did audio engineering. I remember my mother went up and looked at, what was it, Northeastern in Washington State to look at their engineering program. But I don't think I was ready. I wasn't excited about it. I wanted to just get out of school. I just was one of those kind of kids and didn't feel the validity of it at that time.
Right. And you knew you wanted to fly.
Well, I guess, but sound was number one to me. Even by that point, I always was, that was always there. The Air Force was okay. It was all right. I didn't, I was a little rebellious. I didn't like the haircut stuff. And especially then, we're talking 1981, 82.
Dude, that's a rough time to be a kid who's struck by the music bug who wants to join the Air Force.
Exactly. But what it was for me was a technical education in electronics and that kind of thing. So I pulled out what I needed to pull out of that, and it worked fine.
Where were you stationed?
I went to basic in Lackland in San Antonio. I was sent to Biloxi for tech school, which my first job in the Air Force was a scope dope, basically. I worked in radar systems and electronic countermeasures and assistant weapons controlling. So you're the guy that sits at the radar scope and tells the fighters where to go or talks to the AWACS plane. That's what I did.
Right.
I was stationed, my first station was Iceland. It's funny because I got orders to go to the Philippines, and then 2 days later I got countermanded orders to Iceland. I was like, who did I piss off?
Yeah, right.
Obviously somebody senior wanted that slot and took it.
Yep.
But Iceland was actually really cool. I had a great time there. It was not bad. It's like the weather was like being in Maine.
Right.
I had a great time. It was a year there, and I did some growing up there, which I needed to do.
Yep.
Coming in pretty immature, and you learn.
Right.
People get on your ass about being a dick, and you change, or you'll be a dick the rest of your life.
Right. Right.
So I got a lot out of it, and then I cross-trained when I got an option to cross-train. So I went into avionics, inertial navigation systems, and ballistics computers on the F4s, and I did that. I got sent to Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado.
Whoa.
Worked on atmospheric threat, which right when I was there, where they were creating the Space Command, so they separated atmospheric and outer atmospheric threat. And you didn't do anything. All you did was look a scope, and you ran training tapes all day. I got bored to tears, so I said I need to cross train, and that's when I went into the avionics end of it. And I got sent to McGuire, New Jersey. How convenient!
Right.
And I finished up there and got out.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty good run in the Air Force.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot in 4 years. I as you can tell by what I did, I was restless.
Yeah. Are you still restless?
No, not really.
No, you're slowing down in your old
Not
age.
at 54 years old. No, I've gotten the restlessness out of me. I mean, hell, I've been on the road for over 30 years.
Yeah,
I
right.
can't get it out by then.
Yeah, exactly. But you mentioned that one of your superiors let you go out and moonlight and do sound on the side.
Yeah, in Colorado, there was a little company. I can't even remember the name anymore. Yeah, it's a lot of years. But I asked him, can I moonlight for the sound company? And he was like, sure. And then we worked the local clubs in Colorado Springs, like DJs. My first exposure, my exposure there to music outside of that New York, New Jersey area.
Right.
But it was all nationals again. So again, I got more exposure to nationals and coming in there touring and watching how they do things and seeing how it all really works.
And still, this time in the Air Force, you're like, that I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go back to that world. That's what's got me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Yeah. And I know you've done some recording engineering. Do you like the live arena?
Oh yeah, the recording engineering was tertiary to my live work.
Okay.
If my engineering credits are all from live projects. They're not quote studio projects. I get bored in the studio. I can only listen to something so many times. That's my personality.
Right.
Let's move forward. Some guys just into the minutia over and over for weeks at a time on the snare drum. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah. You probably appreciate it once it's done, right? And you hear the recording back or whatever.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
Like, that's awesome. But yeah.
But then my brain tells me what's gone into that, and I just can't deal with it. Like my friend Paul Hager, I always bust his chops about being Mr. Studio and Mr. Live. And I'd go visit him, and he'd be working on the same thing for hours, and I'd be like, I'm going to eat my gun.
Yeah. It's crazy. I know. It's a lot of time listening to the same thing. All right, so you pop out of the Air Force, and you go back to KC?
Yeah, I go back to Ken, keep doing what I was doing. And eventually, about 1987 or so, we do a show in Bound Brook for this local band I was mixing called New York Fury. They were actually out of Staten Island, but they had guys from Jersey and stuff. They thought they were Kiss. Uh-huh. They had the big light up sign and the humongous drum set, and they all wear black spandex with big boots, and they had the hair, 1980, 86. And there was a Japanese metal band that was opening, that was the headliner, which was EZO, which was produced by Gene Simmons and managed by, back then, Amuse America, who had their other client was Guitaro.
Okay.
Their tour manager at the time heard me mix Fury, and it was one of those, like, you always thought it would happen. He goes, hey, you want to go on the road with us and mix front of house? And that was it.
Wow.
It just rolled from there.
It is. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's amazing how many of these conversations I have with folks like you that say that exact same thing.
Right place, right time. You got to have the ear, though. I mean, if I didn't have an ear, I wouldn't have got the gig.
Right.
You know, I did right after that tour. I did a monitor engineer tour, which it was all right. I didn't get asked back. You know, it happens. That was for the Godfathers.
Okay.
And you know, you just live and learn. That taught me I didn't want to do monitors. And pretty much, what you see on my resume, I've been front of house ever since.
Yeah. That's
Almost
crazy.
30 years of just front of house.
That's crazy. Why didn't you like doing monitors?
I think I couldn't focus on the actual mix. I was running around doing all this other stuff, you know, other people's mixes, and it was what they wanted.
Right.
I think it was more of a control issue for me. I have a little control problem sometimes, but who doesn't?
Yeah. Well, and I can see that the front of house position, it's funny because I think it was Looper also who described doing monitors as being an air traffic controller.
And which he was in the Marine Corps.
Right. Exactly. And I can see that. And I can see being out front, you know, you're
More of the pilot.
You're a bit more of the pilot, man.
Right.
And which, you know, I got to see firsthand, you know, a guy like Robert Scoville climb behind his Avid desk as it was lit up in the dark. It looked like a instrument panel. It was crazy.
Exactly.
You know.
And I've had pilots come to my shows that are friends of mine. Like, you know, one guy was a retired captain. He was the captain of the Lexington, a carrier air group commander, and he's watching me. He goes, "Hey, the airline pilot's got nothing on you with this equipment." He's like, "God, how do you know what everything does?" You know, the usual thing.
Right,
and
right.
He's like, wow. He's like, "I'm impressed." You know, this is a guy that, you know, fought combat and did, you know, was a career naval officer, and he's just like, holy crap.
That's hysterical, man. So what'd you start learning in those early, you know, obviously monitors were not going to be your thing, but now that you got a taste of being out on the road, sort of legitly with a band, let's say, what do you remember some of the first things that were like, all right, or maybe it was like, hey, I got this. I've been in the Air Force for 4 years. I think I can handle this shit.
Just trying to do a really good job to make every show better than the next, to listen, you know, to ask what the band wants it to sound like, because you're really their interpretation of the audience. You know, I consider myself a funnel. You know, they funnel me all those inputs and I make it so it's that two, you know, left and right.
Right.
And, you know, you got to ask the artist, what do they expect their sound to be like and what are they looking for? Because everybody's different and you have to adjust. You can't mix the way you want it to be. It's got to be a combination of your interpretation of what they want. Yep. And make it so they're happy, because they're ultimately paying you and they're ultimately going to fire you if they don't like what they hear.
Right.
And nowadays it's even crazier because everything's judged on, you know, an iPhone over YouTube.
Right.
You know,
right.
And stuff like that. So you've got to understand what you're dealing with. It used to be, you know, make me a cassette every night and I'd give you a cassette. And then you'd have that explanation of like, why is this louder than this isn't? Well, I'm mixing for the room, not the cassette, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, nowadays you're mixing for the iPhones and for the people that are doing however devices they're recording and putting on YouTube.
Yeah. That has just to be another sort of hurdle in your conversation with the artist or with management, right?
Most understand it now. We've been dealing with it for, you know, a good 10 years that way. So it's kind of, in the beginning, it was definitely conversations to be had.
Right.
But now it's understood and everybody knows what you're dealing with that. And, you know, it is, you know, on times it is a good representation. If they can hear everything, then it's probably a good mix, you know?
Yep.
You know, obviously they're going to understand that the bottom end's going to distort the hell out of it if it's a loud show, but.
It looks like your first sort of big run, I wouldn't say big run, but your first chunk of times where you spent a lot of time with a band was Rage.
Yeah.
And Cypress Hill and House of Pain.
Maggie's Dream was before that.
Maggie's Dream. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a real good start for me because, you know, it was Robbie Rosa was the singer and he just come out of Menudo.
Uh-huh.
And a very talented bunch of guys. You had, it was Ralph Hernandez on guitar. I can't remember all their names anymore. Tony James was on drums, who went on to do kids' TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And Lonnie Hillier, whose father was a very famous jazz musician who played the bass. And it was a good bunch of guys and a really good exposure to that more modern style of funk rock. It was just starting then.
Right.
And they were really good at it. And that was my first time getting to go overseas as a touring engineer. And that was a lot of exposure. And that got me into all the Warren Ettner bands, which Rage was one of them. That's where Faster Pussycat was. He had Quiet Riot. That all came because of Maggie's Dream.
Yeah. In your Rage time, because I'm going to get all my dates screwed up.
That's all right.
But you're right there in the beginning. Are you pre Dave Rat? Because I know he mixed a bit.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. I asked him this because he referenced I think it's Bomb Track, right? The fuck you don't do. I won't do it. You tell me. So for you, what was it like standing at the console, mixing a band like that?
It was amazing. I mean, back then with them, the energy was palpable at every show. I haven't really experienced that kind of energy ever again. Maybe Korn a little bit when they were starting out. It was just always amazing, but I was into making it sound the best I could every night for them. It was good because there's a lot of space in their music too.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of stuff going on. There's a bass, guitar, drums, and Zach.
Right.
And you're pretty much open to fill whatever in the blanks you want to do.
Yeah.
Give it a lot of space. And it was great. I got to go through the whole first album cycle. That was all me. Right up through Lollapalooza in 93. I did it from zero. The first show I did with them is the Coach House at San Juan Capistrano, opening for the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow at a dinner theater. That was the first gig I did for them. Oh. And I remember turning to John Vassalou and Warren Ettner, the managers, and going, "Thank you for letting me mix these guys." I knew it right then that these guys were something special.
Wow.
And it just rolled from there. That's where I met Bobby Schneider. He came on as the tour manager, and then Tracy Robar, who's been Flea's tech for 20 years now, was Tom Morello's tech. Sean London was the drum tech, who now mixes, Eagles of Death Metal, and he was at the Baclacon for the terrorist attack.
Right.
So a lot of good people came out of that camp, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was a very special time. I still talk to the guys. I just saw Brad recently because I mixed the Royal Machines at All-Star Band. And Juliette Lewis came, and they lived together, and there was Brad, and we reconnected. I talk to Timmy every once in a while. Whenever I see, Morello, it's big hello. Nobody sees Zach that much.
Right. Right.
But it's all good.
Yeah.
They call me OG Joel. That's what I was.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that was a pretty special time. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you are, and so that zone was my, right out of college, basically around that time.
It took me from clubs right out to mixing 40,000 people at a time.
What was that like?
Yeah, that was great. I never think of it that way.
Yeah.
I think about it. For me, I got my console, I've got my speakers, and that's what I got. The audience, for me, I don't think, oh my God, there's 40,000 people here. I don't think that way. It's a high pressure gig, but I compartmentalize it the way I should. The pressure is the mix,
right?
Not the people. Yes, the people are going to benefit from me with the mix, but it's about what the band sounds like.
So 91 to 93, you're with those guys. That's a pretty big growth year, as you said, with them, from clubs to 40,000 people, Lollapalooza. What's it like sort of being inside that and being a part of it all growing and watching that effect on the artist?
It was a blast. Those guys didn't really change during that period. There was, some inner friction, about some wanting to be successful commercially, others didn't, but that's a lot of bands are that way.
Yeah, right.
That's true. That's true art. True artists. The guys don't want to be successful. They don't care about the commercial viability of it. It's about the music.
Yeah.
And it was a good period for me to observe all this and see how it really happens when a band goes from 0 to 100 in a year or two. Mm-hmm. You take that, you hopefully take that information and do positive things with it and not go the other way.
Right.
Which it's easy to do too.
Was that first album, was that the one that was done up at Sound City?
Yeah. I believe so. Brendan O'Brien did that one, I think.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh, Garth. It was Garth, I think. I wasn't really involved on that side of it.
Right. Which
I never really am. So I'd have to go look at my liner notes to see who did what on that one.
Yeah. Well, no, because there was a place in L.A. There was a rehearsal facility that's going to totally escape me, and which is terrible because I rehearsed there a lot, and it was on sort of the Hollywood side, not out in the valley. Anyway, it was rumored that they had done a bunch of recording. They had a room there that was, and all their walls were like burlap covered.
Yeah.
Whatever. What the hell was that place? Cole rehearsal facility.
Never went there.
Never went there?
No, I think a couple times we rehearsed was probably mates. And then I do remember that most of the tour rehearsals were just at the first club we went to.
Yeah.
We'd get it a day early and just do it there.
Right.
Because those guys didn't have any set. It was just, Tom's half stack and the 5-piece drum kit and Timmy's SVT rig, and that was it. That's what we had.
Wow. That must have been pretty awesome, man.
It was great.
Cool. Yeah.
It was great.
And so,
it's one of the highlights of my time as an engineer was those guys, just because it was the first really thing that really exploded, and the energy again was just so palpable you could not help but feed off of it.
Yeah. And then you leapfrogged from that, Cypress Hill, House of Pain, the Cramps, which must have been pretty awesome, Korn, Montel Jordan, LL Cool J. I mean, that's a pretty good run, dude. The 90s were real good to Joel Lonky.
Yeah, it didn't suck. It's like I never wanted to be pigeonholed, so I always strove to mix different types of music. And I guess I still do that, as you can see.
Yeah.
I jump from Zombie to Billy Idol to Antwoord.
Right.
Same thing. It's just I keep it fresh, because then you're just like, oh, he just mixes metal, or oh, he just does pop, or
Yeah.
I think it's good to keep it going.
And Maroon 5.
Yep.
I mean, Maroon 5 up against the Zombie or something like that, like you said. I mean, Anthrax. Yeah, you're a bit all over the place, but it's keeping it fresh.
Again, it's that networking and the people that you meet, and the impressions that you leave, because Zombie's tour manager at that time was Fred Karazzi, who's Maroon 5's tour manager. And now if you also look, you'll see Phantom Planet.
Yeah.
And that's also that the guys in Phantom Planet, one of them was the roommate with Adam Levine, and
that's right,
Jordan Feldstein, who managed them, who also managed Phantom Planet. And so all these little interconnections of people get you to where you want to be.
Jordan just passed, right?
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. He was such a nice guy. He's so young, 40 years old. Always treated people well. Very, very fair guy. Not your typical manager. Very, very nice guy. I was very sad to hear that news this week.
Yeah. Crazy, man. As you're doing this stuff, are you, and I'm talking about, when you're with Cypress and Rage and whatnot, were you constantly like a sponge trying to learn from people ahead of you?
Yeah, when I'd meet them, that I was selective. If I really dug what someone was doing, those are people that I would gravitate towards. If I would hear something like, I wouldn't really worry about it. I move to the next thing and person and say, how do you do that? And that's really interesting. And how would you do this? Then, just constant asking. And the only stupid question is one not asked.
Yep. That is very true. Do you remember some of the names of people that were ahead of you that you were like, oh man, I got to meet that guy or that gal?
Oh yeah, there was Night Bob, which I already knew, and I got to meet Gunji and ML. I was an ML guy for a while. ML brought me into Shoko into the late '90s. There was just a lot of people like that. I remember watching Nafasi mix Alice in Chains. Robbie McGrath doing the Stones. I got a lot of great experience. Joe Hurley with U2 when I got to open for them. And so I really, really got to pick the brains of some world-class engineers, in my formative mixing years. Lucky for me. Yeah. Like I said, it all came from where I geographically started, I think. It had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in between these tours, is this where you start to, on your off time, start jumping out of airplanes?
I started that actually before I started touring. I started jumping out of airplanes, and
well, probably the Air Force, obviously.
Yeah, it was a hobby.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty high speed, low drag, so I'm an adrenaline junkie at heart.
Yeah.
And that fit me very well. The skydiving thing. It was a small community then too.
Sure.
I loved it. I'd bring parachutes with me on tour, and on days off, I'd try to find a drop zone, do that thing. Jump out, throw myself out of a perfectly good airplane. People say that, but I say, you haven't seen the airplanes. They're not perfectly good.
Right, exactly. They're like shells, basically, right?
Yep.
Those planes. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
not something I'm necessarily into, the jumping out part.
It's also a self-confidence thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it. Every time you jump out and you pull that parachute, you save your own life every time.
Right.
Because back then when I did it, there weren't automatic emergency opening devices and all that stuff. That was still down the pipe. So you either did it or you didn't.
Right. So aside from the adrenaline
bounced.
part for you, what is it?
Well, there's meticulousness in it. There's a bit of self, you control your own destiny. Plus the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Plus it's a great community. You're all very tight because, you're all watching out for each other, and it's life and death. So it's that kind of camaraderie of combat kind of thing. And,
Sure.
I still have friends that I started jumping with that I still see and talk to just because of that camaraderie that we shared.
Yeah.
We were in the trenches throwing ourselves out of airplanes.
Kind of, if I can draw the connection, like
Yeah.
being on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're forced to live with people. That's another thing that's unique to the road life, that you're forced to live with many different people, have different beliefs and different backgrounds, and you have no choice. You have to get along. And I think if more people had to live that way, this world would be a much better place. Like if roadies ruled the world.
Right.
We have plus we travel the world, and that really helps broaden your subjectiveness to other people's views and the way other people do things, and you're not so closed-minded about stuff. You're not in this little 50-mile circle world of life that I'm glad I don't have.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
That's, I think, a big problem with Americans is they don't travel enough and they don't open themselves up to other points of view.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I spent a semester living in London when I was in school, and I lived with a family, and all of their kids knew so much more than myself or any of my friends about what was going on in the world. It was incredible.
Yeah, and Americans just don't. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't think we can get out of that rut, so to
No.
speak.
Well,
Europeans are completely different than us that way.
we're in love with the Kardashians. That's the biggest problem.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, I'm definitely not speaking for myself, my man. that is for sure.
Yeah, I understand the parallel you're drawing there. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's yeah, I know. I'm with you. So it looks like your longest run was with Mr. Zombie, yeah?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years. Tell me about that. How'd that come about?
Oh, it's great. Rob's amazing. I got that from ML. He goes, I got one for you. You go do Rob Zombie. I'm like, sure. And that's, Rob, I got there. Rob liked what I did, and 10 years.
10 years. That's awesome.
Steve Walsh, he's there 5 or 6 now.
I know. Steve Walsh, good dude.
It's a great guy to work for. Rob's super great. And everybody would, when I first got, oh, he's a jerk. He fires everybody. Blah, blah. Yeah, he fires people that can't do their job. That's it. You can do your gig. He keeps you.
Right. Right.
It's that simple. Those stories always come from people that got canned and they don't know why. And the reason why is because you couldn't do your job.
So tell me this, a lot of big bands, as we said, on your resume. Tell me, you get a call from a band, new artist you're going to work with. Walk me through what those conversations look like before you actually get out to mix.
The process.
Yes.
Well, get the call, cut the deal, accept the offers, negotiate whatever we got to do. First thing I do is I ask the manager to send me, what they're planning to do live, what songs, and then I dive into listening and dissecting the music I try to do it for a good month ahead at least. listen to everything. Now and then I talk to the artist. Do you want it to sound like the record? Do you want it to sound more live? There's all these questions about tonality of the instruments, what they want it to sound like, how close they want it to sound to this or this. Mm-hmm. Start making notes, start figuring out how I'm going to do this. And, whatever console I'm going to use at that time, start working on programming, or if it's going to be analog, what gear I'm going to bring out, and start building it up that way. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is just learning the music and listening to it and knowing where every little thing is before you even get out there. So they don't go, why'd you miss that cue? Why did you miss that delay? There shouldn't be any of that. Right. You should just go in and be ready to roll. Be prepared.
Yep.
Do your homework.
And a lot of times, or I shouldn't say a lot of times, do you get time? Is there a good amount of rehearsal time is where I'm trying to go with this one? Sometimes,
yeah. Usually, if it's a new cycle, they're always going to rehearse for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a month, sometimes 2 months. Depends who it is, how much money they've got to waste.
Sure.
But you should still go in prepared anyway. Even if you got 2 months of rehearsals, you should go in ready to, within a week, you should be ready to go.
Yeah.
More time, the better, to polish it. Like, I'll sit in a rehearsal, do the rehearsal with the band, track it, then stay in the rehearsal space another 8 or 10 hours working on it, and then come back and do it again the next day, over and over. It's all in the details.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you're working on it after the rehearsal, what are you actually doing? Did you record the rehearsal and then you put it back up and you're working on stuff?
Right. Exactly. And I'll work on maybe just the bass for a little while. Then I'll get bored with that. And I'll move over to the guitars. That gives me the ability to keep myself interested. Again, back to the studio thing where I can't work on something for 1,000,000 hours.
Sure.
It's just not me.
Yeah.
So I can bounce around.
Yep.
And eventually I have, I write myself an outline of how I'm going to do it. Okay, I got this song. Okay, let's start with the drums, or this song, I want to start on this, and just start building it block by block by block. Mm-hmm. And eventually you have a whole little building around you of that song, and you're starting to feel comfortable with it. And then you can start adding effects and, okay, now that's what should be here. What is that? Figuring it out. I don't call the producer and go, what did you do on that track? I'll figure it out myself just because it's a challenge.
Got it. Do a lot of people do you get to have that line of communication with the producer or even with the former front of house engineer?
Yeah, but it's a front of house guy thing that you'll talk a couple of times, but that's it. It's your baby now. I'm not here to give you my stuff. Do it yourself. It's one of those deals.
Right.
We're not going to hold you up because I've moved on. I've got my own new project. I don't need to be dealing with that now.
Right. I'm not going to babysit
So it's, usually it's a hour long phone call and that's about it.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yep.
Unless, you're taking over from somebody mid-tour, then you'll come and watch a couple of, then mix a few shows. Then you'll mix a show with him next to you, that kind of thing. And then they're gone. So it's just how you want to work and how willing they are to help you along. But most of the time, it's like, I got stuff to do. That's enough. You can go from here with it. You're a pro. Deal with it.
Yeah. Talk to me a bit about mixing Billy Idol.
Oh, Billy's awesome. So much fun. I grew up on Billy Idol. That was out when I was in high school. I listened to it. I loved Sex Pistols and all the old punk. So it was just like, when I got that, it was like, oh, woohoo. And that was given to me by Sound Image. And that's because it was a house account with them. And it's great. It's been awesome. I'm going on 7 years now with that.
That's awesome.
And Billy's another guy. If he likes you, you're family.
Yeah.
And most of the crew have been there. I think our juniorest crew member has been there 5 years.
Wow.
And then we have guys at 11 years, 12 years, 15 years. Billy doesn't like change. He's not a change guy.
Right.
So once he gets people he likes, he keeps them, as long as everybody's doing their gig.
Yep. And talk to me about the approach on someone like Billy Idol who's got the depth of a catalog, right? I know talking to someone like Robert Scoville, when he and I sat down, it's important to him not to replicate, right, an older record, right, of Tom Petty's for the audience, but to honor it in some way with his setup or what he communicates audibly to the audience. So tell me about that.
Well, with Billy, you've got Steve Stevens. Now, he writes all the music. He's got just an amazing ear. He hears stuff that I don't even hear, which great. It's amazing. And if any musical questions, it goes to Steve. Steve's like, I'm going to do this. And Steve will like, that's good. But, do this, maybe on that part, do this like this. And you take that and do it. And, he's very honest. He'll tell you if it sucks or he'll tell you if he thinks it's good.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to snow you. He's not going to tell you, that's great. And then turn around and go, oh, that sucked. He's a New York guy.
Yeah.
So he'll tell you whether he likes it or not.
Yeah.
And he's great because he gives you feedback when you need it and doesn't say anything when you don't. It's, how do you want me to do the drums? Well, I want kind of like Led Zeppelin-y sound. So you don't want that big attack kick drum. No, which perfect, And we have a big sloppy Ludwig drum kit, Led Zeppelin style, big old 29-inch empty kick. So that's a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Doing that, using a kick like that live. He's the musical brains of that outfit.
Right, so
for
he's
sure.
He's sort of the MD.
Oh, he is the MD. There's no question about
He's
that.
not sort of the MD. He is the guy.
He is the MD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything musical's him.
Yeah.
And he's great to communicate with. He's a lovely person. I'm not just saying that because we're doing this interview. I'll tell you someone's an asshole.
Right.
He's great. I love Steve, and he's amazing and an amazing talent, all the stuff he's done. And, he really created a whole thing for what they do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Billy's sound is Billy's sound. There's no other.
Right.
Steve's sound is Steve's sound. There is no other.
Right.
Like stuff that I never knew he wrote. He wrote like the damn Top Gun theme is his.
Did he really?
Yeah, that's him.
But he didn't play it, right?
Oh yeah, he played it in a recording. Absolutely, we play it live. We break it into as a segue in a song that he actually plays it live. That's Steve.
Get out
Exactly.
of here! Holy shit! That was one of the first
all kinds
things.
of stuff like that.
That was one of the first things I taught myself to play as a kid.
Yeah, funny one. You remember that band Kicks?
Yeah.
Oh, you ever hear a story about the bass player getting his nose broken on stage?
No.
That was me.
Let's talk about that.
That was a Club Benet thing. So I had just come off a tour, and Casey's regular guy couldn't do it. So it was like 2 days before Christmas, and he's like, "Hey man, can you cover this show at Benet?" And I was like, "Sure. What is it? Kicks. All right, no problem. I'll do monitors." So I called my buddy Steve Cohen up, the tech, and he had worked for them. He had toured with them. So he said, "Hey, come on down, see the guys." And he's like, "Yeah, it'll be great. We can hang out." So they bring in these old PA speakers, and they put them in front of the stage, but they face them in towards the dance floor this way, right at the edge of the stage. And sound check went fine. Everything's cool. So then first song, they go out and they start playing, and the singer sticks his mic out, and it goes right into the beam of those two, and it rings. Well, Donnie Parnell, the bass player at the time, it wasn't Brad Divins. He was already gone. Because I wouldn't have done it to Brad. So it rings. He looks at me and gives me this, death look, like, how dare you? I'm like, and I give him one of those. I'm like, it's your speakers, Right. So show goes, next song, does it again. And he looks at me, and he's just like, flips me off, and I give him the old, and point at the speakers again. Third song, does it again. When he sticks the mic into the field, I have no control over these things.
Right.
They're connected to the house. He takes a squeezy bottle full of ice and Coke and throws it at me. Hits me, goes over the console. I'm like, motherfucker. And I'm like, my brain goes, can't treat me like that. So I throw it back at him and I hit him. Well, the look on his face was like, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker. He throws his bass down during the song, charges me at the monitor desk, takes a swing at me, just catches me right there. I don't move. Steve Cohen's standing right here and watches this whole thing. I just jab, bang, and I shatter his nose. He drops to the floor. Show stops. They drag him into the dressing room. I'm like, uh-oh. Crowd's getting all rowdy. And his wife comes running up to me, goes, "What did you do to my Steve? You put his nose on the side of his face." And then the crowd turns on them. They're like yelling stuff like, "Get back on stage, you big pussy. You don't need your nose to play bass." Stuff like that. He won't come back out. Show's over. Third song. So I'm like, oh boy. So I start packing stuff up, and all of a sudden the whole crew and band surround me.
I was gonna say, what'd the band do when you did this shit?
And I'm like, I'm gonna have to go like prison fight now. And they all toast me. Here, that's been needed to be done for years. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, he's been an asshole to people for years. It's about time someone did that to him. I'm like, wow, cool. So everything goes along. Well, I get a summons that I'm being sued for $40,000 for the guarantee, for pain and suffering, and reconstruction of his nose.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, now if Club Benet was a dinner theater most of the time, so it was basically the stage, and then perpendicular to the stage were long tables. They were all hooked up. It wasn't like separate tables, like these long banquet tables all together.
Community seating.
Yeah. Right below me at Monitorland were 5 off-duty New Jersey state troopers that had come to see the show. I didn't even have to go to court. They told the judge, no, Mr. Lonky defended himself. Mr. Parnell hit Mr. Lonky twice before Mr. Lonky defended himself. Case dismissed.
Brody wins.
Anytime I went back to Maryland, Hammerjacks, I drank for free. I was a hero there for a while. Those guys, because they were a Maryland band. They were Hammerjacks fan.
Right.
And, they were like, hey, you're not buying a drink. And it went on for a couple of years like that. Oh, it's Lucky. Hey, want a drink?
Nice.
Well, because of that. Nice. That was my big claim to fame with Kicks.
Holy shit. How quickly did that word spread amongst the roadie community?
It went around. It was always like, oh, you're the guy?
Right.
It was one of those. Oh, that was you?
That's fantastic. I like that.
I always thought, I'm here to help you. You can't treat us like that. Yeah. That's how I always looked at it.
Yeah.
We'll do anything we can for you as the band, but you can't treat us like shit.
Yeah.
Because we will rebel.
Right. Exactly. Faders will not go up that night.
That's right.
So in talking about all these amazing bands and this awesome career that you've had, much like being a pilot or a captain, there's usually someone who sits next to you, who's your co-pilot, your wingman. So let's talk about your assistants along the way, your systems techs who have helped you out, and if you have one in particular that is your guy or gal. But let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, most of the time I always was myself. When I went to Shoko, I was a system engineer mixer. They called us super engineers at that time. It was ML's idea to have one guy do both jobs, which was cool. I dug that. But then I started getting guys. I had Jim Regas from Shoko, who's now Claire. Awesome dude. Jim Regas is a genius. I love Jim. He's out right now. He's always SEing like TSO. He's been doing TSO for years. And on and on. I had Frank Scambolone. He worked with us when I was at Bernard Brown, right out of Full Sail, Frank. And Frank's tremendous. Frank's, become quite an engineer in his own right. Does Luke Bryant now as front of house and all, whatever. He's awesome. My favorite, actually, I share with Scoville is Andrew Dowling. He did my bunch of zombie tours with me. I love that guy. He left Sound Image to go to Claire and went right to Robert, and now he was out system engineering Paul with McCartney, and wow. I love Andrew. Andrew's like a Spock when it comes to system engineering. He told me, he's like, I don't really care about mixing. I want to be the best system engineer. That's what I do. And,
wow.
Just that drive and the passion he has for system engineering is like, oh, you're awesome, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
And he's tremendous. So yeah, Andrew Dowling's probably one of the best SEs out there. I like that guy a lot. I would always take him.
You have someone with Billy?
No, because we don't carry PA.
Okay.
And I tech my own front of house rig because most of the gear is my own. All the analog gear I bring is my rack. The only thing I get from Sound Image is the console. So I tech myself. I tune the PA. The local guys will tune it. I'll just check it and make some tweaks. But unless I'm carrying full PA, I won't carry one. And then, if Andrew, I can't, Andrew's usually always taken now. He's got his little top dog award and his Parnelli award now. And, I'll wave to him, I know I'm a little small fish now. You go with Scoville and Pabs now. And, He's all with the big boys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like getting the young guys because they're hungry and they hopefully they have the right ethics and work values and they work hard. Usually in your not position, you're not a lazy guy anyway. You've gotten to that point. You're not lazy.
Right.
So it's not like you've got to, crack the whip on them that way.
Yeah.
And I like having young kids because, I don't mind teaching them this stuff. As being a flight instructor, I don't mind teaching. It's good.
Kind of comes naturally.
Take what I tell you. Take what you want out of it. If you think it's all crap, fine. I don't care.
Right.
I've spoken peace, and if you listen, great. If not, I don't care.
Crash your fucking plane. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, that's a little different. There's life and death. See, that's another thing. That teaches you that, people get so wound up at shows and get crazy about stuff. No, nobody's going to die. Nobody's life's in danger here unless you're a rigger and you hang the motors wrong with the PA over the audience. If it's an engineer or system guy, come on.
Right.
Nothing's worth going crazy about and getting all worked up.
Yeah.
It's not, no one's going to die. Nothing's going to, it's a show. It's entertainment. We're here to entertain.
Right.
So that taught me a lot to chill the F out, and not let stuff get to you.
Sure. When I was editing in LA, I was assisting, I assisted a few different folks, right? And one of the guys told me was, as an assistant, what he was told back when he was assisting was the minute you become comfortable as an assistant, that's when you need to strike out on your own and start getting jobs as an editor, right? So I'm just curious, as a systems tech, is it the same sort of thing? I mean, obviously it sounds like there are people like, hey, you know what? I just like doing this part. I don't want the responsibility of, doing sound for the show. I just want to do this. But overall, I think people probably come out of school, whatever, and they're like, I want to fucking mix Zombie or whoever it is. When is that point that you sort of make the shift from being a tech, being an assistant?
Well, you can make once you know the gear, you think I'll mix, but you got to have the ear. That's the thing. You can't control that. You got it or you don't.
Yeah.
I think really that's really a big part of it. I guess I've been lucky. I guess I have an ear. I never thought I did. People might say, oh, your mix does suck. You don't have an ear. You're just lucky you know the right people. And it happens everywhere.
Sure.
I can deal with that.
Right. But eventually you're going to wash out if you don't.
Right. Exactly. Some people, again, it's like as you get older in life, you find your niche and that's your niche. You've already expanded yourself to a point where you're okay. That I don't need to do that. Some people can't handle that pressure. Maybe they love being an SE because the pressure is not the same. As the front of house guy, it's all on you.
Right.
It's very high pressure.
Sure.
If you can't handle pressure and you have a lot of anxiety, then it's not the job for you.
Yeah.
So I guess it's knowing oneself and what you can handle and what you want out of it.
Yep. So going back to the fact that you have good ears, or think you have good ears, have you?
It's subject. It's a very subjective, topic.
Right. How have you taken care of those ears? How do you take care of your ears on the road, night after night?
Well, I do wear earplugs pretty much all the time if I'm near a PA or monitors when I'm not mixing. I do not wear them when I mix because only the artist is paying me to lose my hearing. Nobody else is. Mm-hmm. Anybody in our business who's been there that long, who's been doing it as long, is going to have some form of hearing loss, tinnitus, whatever. You learn how to deal with it. You learn how to compensate. You by knowing what you're listening to and what you're hearing in your own head, what frequencies are you're losing or what's ringing so you deal with it.
Yeah.
Anybody that says they don't have it's probably lying.
Right.
Especially if you've been doing it for 20 plus years or even 10 years, depending on what you're mixing. If you're mixing 130 dB, you're mixing Man O' War, at 140, you're going to be hurt within 2 weeks.
Sure.
So it really just, it's knowing what's going on with yourself and what you hear when it's quiet and the lights are out.
Right. Exactly.
Everybody's got it. I'm sure, anybody, musicians that have been on stage for a while, we all have some hearing loss, some tinnitus. Nobody's pristine anymore.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about being on the road?
The day-to-day challenges of starting from scratch every day. I like living by the schedule, yet I like the freedom of it being different every day. And the camaraderie is a big thing. I once you get a crew that clicks, it's a family. It's not just a bunch of guys working together, because you spend your off time together. You'll go to dinner on off days. You'll go do stuff. You're living together. You're eating together. You're working together. It's, I equate it to being on a nuclear submarine.
Right.
Without having the hot bunk.
Right.
And for you people that don't know what hot bunking is, that's having one bunk shared by two people. When one guy's working, the other guy's in the sheets.
Woo.
So we're lucky that way.
Right.
Yeah, it's all that. I think it just fits my personality. My wife wonders how I do it sometimes. And, I'd say, well, I live in a bunk on a bus. She goes, well, that's the life you chose. And I go, that's true. It is. Yeah. I chose this. I don't have to be here. I could have gotten another job. I could be flying professionally. I've had those opportunities, but yet I stay with this.
Mm. How long have you been married?
This is my second wife, and I've been with her going on 10 years.
She's in the industry or no?
No, she's in the healthcare industry. Okay. She's a practice administrator for 3 pediatricians. But when I was dating her, she said something to me, and I said, I'm going to marry this lady. She's a big Aerosmith fan, huge. Loves music, loves live music. She said to me one day while we were dating, I think when she came out to a zombie show or something, she says, I get it. You do what you do for people like me. And a little bell went off. She understands. And it's been fine. 10 years of this, and she gets it. Yeah, she complains once in a while that I'm not around sometimes. But for the most part, totally gets it.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome. Has she come out a lot to see you?
She used to, but now that we have all the dogs, she doesn't feel it necessary anymore, so she rarely travels. She doesn't trust anybody with the dog. She's a crazy dog lady now. We don't tell her I said that.
How many dogs you guys got?
We had 4. We have 3 now. They're all rescues. A couple of them are PTSD doggies, and they're all a little off center. So, but they're great dogs, and it makes her happy. I'm all for it.
That's awesome, man. What do you do now that you're not so much of the adrenaline junkie jumping out of planes on your day off? What do you do out there to sort of take care of yourself?
I work out. I pretty much
like Scoville. Are you a tougher mutter like Scoville?
No, I don't do any of that, but I go lift weights and I do a lot of cardio, and I stay strong. I eat really well. My wife's a 24-year vegan now. Oh, so at home, I kind of eat vegan. Yep. And then on the road, I eat pretty much, I'm a pescatarian. I'll eat fish, but that's it. And I'll skip a meal and do protein shakes. I try to, it's so hard on the road. You got to be disciplined. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I don't eat at night. I won't eat after show food because that's a killer.
Right.
You go, I just had 2,000 calories. Now I'm going to have a beer and go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for me anymore. I used to. I gained a bunch of weight and lost it, gained it, lost it. And now I'm pretty stable now.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I don't hurt, even at 50 something and on the road. None of my joints hurt. I'm in very good health. I've never smoked cigarettes. I'm not a drinker. Mm-hmm. Back in the 80s, hell, we all did everything. I'm not going to have to go into that. Right. For you young people, you'll never know it, so don't worry about it.
That's right.
You've got even worse stuff now that's created in labs, so I don't even want to know about that.
I was going to say the 80s. That was easy living back then.
Yeah, I won't say which tour, but one tour, the production manager used to offer us our PD in either cash or blow, stuff like that.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my next question, which was, so you've been doing this since about the mid 80s, let's call it professionally. Okay. 87, the Godfathers, right? Mid-late 80s.
Easy-O, right.
2017. In that time, because you're not a guy going back to the 60s, right? You're not like rocking back then. So in that time, what have you seen? How have you seen the industry change?
Oh, a lot. I mean, really, generationally, it's changed. I've probably been through 3 generations of this industry. Obviously, the gear, we've seen it accelerating. What's the saying? 6 months is a century now with the equipment. But that was still kind of when I got into it, it was still the end of the Wild Wild West days. And then everybody realized, hey, this is a business. And that's where the changes have really been in the way the business is run and how it's run and who runs it. It was fast and loose then, a lot of cash, a lot of this, that, no taxes. Here you go. Now it's very corporate. Everything's, Team Tours does your payroll, and they take taxes out for every state you've been to. And that never used to happen,
Yeah.
That's where it's really changed is just the way it's run and how, all these business people realize we can get paid by, making this more corporate and more like a business. And that's where it's at now. It's just,
Because it sucks some of
it's
the
more
fun
sterile
out?
that way.
Taking some of the fun out?
Not really.
No.
I don't, not really. Not because the fun is separate from the way it's run as a business.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to fill out a tax form, or, you have to give me W-2s for every state I've been to, so I get a big stack. That doesn't really change the fun of it.
Sure.
It's still fun.
Yeah.
And we can get into the face of terrorism now, and my philosophy is, fuck them. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to let them win. I'm going to do what we do, and I'm not going to worry about it. If I get into a situation, I'm going to deal with it at the situation. I'm not going to sit there and be paranoid about it. That's how it ends up killing it.
Mm-hmm.
By bending to the fear. Don't bend to the fear. Go do your show, not worry about it.
Right.
If it's your time, it's your time. Your number's up, your number's up. And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're hit by a bus or get thrown under the bus, or, someone shoots you, or you get in a car accident, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. It's a chain of events.
Yeah.
You don't know where that link is. You don't know which link to break to stop that chain of events. Just like in aviation, it's a chain of events that causes an accident. It's not one thing.
Right.
So I don't let it get to me. I've talked to Sean about what he went through, and he's the same way. It's not going to stop us. Fuck them.
Right.
Fuck them in the ear.
Right. Well, the other thing is you can paralyze yourself and just going around in circles like what could happen. That's like you said, that's like with anything, right? It's like I could walk out
well, then,
like, should I cross the street? I don't know, because there's a car coming this way, a car coming that way. But
exactly.
At the end of the day, you got to get out of your house and make a living.
Control your own destiny. I mean, you can't control these millions of outside forces that are swirling around us every day. And, keep a good positive view on things as best as you can, whether politically things piss you off, or the way the country's going pisses you off, or, that's why aggravate yourself. Some things you just can't control.
Yeah.
You just can't. So why spin yourself up?
Yep. You got some endorsements on the list. What's some of your favorite gear that you take out with you?
Right now, I still carry a TC 2290, a TCM 5000. I carry two Eventide H3500s. I carry distressors, and I carry good old BSS DPR 901s. For you kids that don't know what those are analog C4s. If you're a Waves guy, you know what I'm talking about.
All right.
That I got. I have a Wendell Jr. I still use once in a while.
Oh my God.
I got turned on to those back in '91 when I was mixing support on Billy Squire's tour. J.R. Robbins was the engineer. Bobby Chenard was the drummer, and he gets so fucked up the night before the shows that some nights he couldn't even open the gate up, so he'd let the Wendell do the kick drum. That's an old school one. Kids, look up the Wendell Jr.
All right. Wendell Jr. for all you out there. And what about favorite mics?
Well, let's see. Currently, my quiver includes Neumann KM184s. I got a lot of those. I love the DPRs, 4099s, the amazing drum mic. I love those, the best clip-on drum mics. I've used the ATM 350s. I used the 98s. I've used them all, but I love those DPRs. So pretty much my drum kits are DPR, Neumann, and Telefunken. That's pretty much what I use on the drums. Mm-hmm. Guitars, for like right now for Steve, I love the SE Audio Voodoo ribbons. They're amazing on the guitar. Mm-hmm. I use the Heil PR31BWs for guitar also. They're great. Use 57s too, Yep. Depends the application. Vocal mics, definitely the Telefunken M80s for backups. I love the sound of them. For the Star mics, for the capsules, we let the Star decide. We'll give them a shootout with M80 capsules, 58 capsules, Beta 58 capsules, Heil, RC35s, whatever, and then whatever he likes, we use. I won't force that on anybody because they've got to listen to it in their ears. All of them are good. You can make all of them work. You can make a damn 58 work. You know,
Sure.
It becomes esoteric at a point where you can spin yourself crazy again. You know, I got to have the best mic in the world, but it might not be the best mic for that application.
Right.
Go with what sounds good. Again, back to square one. Use your ears. Always use your ears. Don't look at the screen.
Yep. Is it a tricky conversation to have with an artist when you're like, I think this would be better for you to use?
If you can articulate the reason and they understand it and accept that, then it's not a problem. You can't just go, well, I think it's better.
Right.
You got to have some backup to that. Why is it better?
Yeah.
Even if the artist doesn't understand a lot of technical stuff, give it to them and speak to them in a way they understand it. Like Eddie Van Halen, the Brown sound. You understand what that means by me saying that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give them it in colors, explain it in a way that they understand, and you have to sell it. You have to, if you want, there's a piece of gear you have to use and you want to use, you have to sell it to the artist why you want to use it.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But make sure that it's going to do the job that you sold, because then you look like an idiot.
Right. What are your sort of future plans and goals? I know you don't have a resolution for 2018. You're not that guy, but you know, as you look ahead to the rest of your career, what's
left of it? Yeah, we are really the first generation to run into our 60s. Look at Randy Mueller and those guys. You know, we're the first, or Nightbob. We're the first generation of engineers that are working past even 50. I mean, I remember being on the bus in my 30s going, I don't want to be that guy on the bus at 40, you know, thinking it's all sad.
Right.
And here I am at 54, still living in a bunk. But
still rocking it.
As long as my ears, you know, stay up, I'll keep mixing. But when when I feel that I'm not delivering the product I should be for the artist, I'm just going to step back and just maybe do production or tour management, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, stay at a point where I can be involved, but not have to mix or do audio. I don't see myself being a system engineer. That was never me. I can't just sit there like that. I definitely enjoy doing production work a lot. I love the minutia of it, the details. I'm a detail kind of person, so I like that. And as you see, I do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I really like the Antwoord. I started mixing them. I did 5 shows. They loved what they heard, but they were like, "You're too busy. You know, you can't do both jobs. Pick one." And I said, "I'll do production."
Right.
Why? It was fun to mix. It's only 8 channels. Right. I think, you know, challenge-wise, I would have gotten bored with it. And I looked at that instantly, and I saw that that's what would happen.
Yeah.
And in production-wise, it's fun. It's a challenge. They're an interesting bunch to work for, and that's why I really like doing the production for them. So
nice.
You know, you got to pick it what fits you well, too. You can't just say it to do it. You got to make sure it works for you and your life and your personality.
As I say, you seem like a guy who's kind of got a lot of that figured out.
It took a while.
Right, of course. And it does, right? I mean, you've spent a lot of years on the road. You spent a lot of years in the air.
I mean, I know, you know, in my early years, I was probably an asshole. Like most young engineers that are becoming successful, you think you know everything, and, you know, you're just a dick at points. And, you know, I meet people, "Oh, I met you a long time ago." And the first thing I'll say is, "Well, sorry if I was an asshole." You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You just, you know, it just comes with maturity, and you just learn, oh, man, I guess I don't know everything, and I just better shut up.
Right. Shut up, listen, and learn. All right, let's leave it on this, Joel. Let's leave it on, is there a band, former, you know, living, currently touring or not, is there one band out there that you're like, I'd like to mix for them, or would have liked to mix for them?
Frank Zappa.
Done. Look at you, ready with it, weren't you?
Oh, I know it.
You know it.
It's one I missed out on.
Yeah. Why?
He was such a perfectionist, but his music was complicated. It was just a whole bunch of weirdness going together. I like weirdness. You know, it fits me. Yeah. I would have loved to have done Frank. Frank would have been the guy. Nice. And I don't even have to think about that one.
Nice. Good. That's a good one to end on, my man. Joel Lonky, I want to thank you very much for coming on out.
Thank you.
Being a part
Thanks
of
for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing your stories, and we'll see you out there somewhere.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope so.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. Joel Lonky, you're the man. Be safe up in those skies, buddy. Fly the friendly skies, you know what I'm saying? Be safe up there. No more jumping out of airplanes. Woo! Shit scares me. All right, guys, stay tuned next week. Episode number 82. As I said, my buddy Liz Shaw, host of Recording Studio Rockstars, will be right here on Roadie Free Radio. You can follow us all week long at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. Hit me up with a note. You know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And in the meantime, my friends, you all be safe out there.
No roadies, no rock and roll.